Alright, this should be working. So anyway, first council meeting summary video. And I'll try to make these somewhat entertaining, I suppose. I suppose just the challenging part might make them a little better than just some dry reading of the minutes or something. So the idea is I'll actually listen to the council meetings and read the minutes and attempt to read what documents I can and summarize that into something less time consuming for people who might be interested, and impose my own commentary where appropriate, which will probably be all the time. Anyway, the first good news is the town has changed attitude a little bit here finally, 15 years later, kind of a thing. They finally decided to do this technology thing a little tiny bit better, and they actually have some of these documents online. So that's really good. But you do have to go looking around a little bit to find them. So it's under schedules, yes, meeting schedule. That's where you need to go. And you will find they've added links to the agenda for meetings ahead of time, and they have for past meetings. If you scroll down the page quite a bit, you can get the past meetings, the minutes, and the agenda for those meetings, and view documents would have the resolutions and the ordinances and other details of interest. So it's a vast improvement. Finally, we're somewhere approaching the 20th century, 21st, maybe someday we'll get there. So it is an improvement. Now you can also get some of the documents under the Borough Council itself page. So if you go to that page and scroll down, at first it doesn't look like anything's happening, and then finally it does. You get agendas and minutes. So there are documents online, and I will use these links where appropriate in perhaps some of these videos in the future and such. So, sorry for stretching the council members. But anyway, so this will be the meeting, sorry, I should have said that right from the beginning, from January 18th. I guess I decided to restart there. So I'm not up on everything that happened over the last 5 or 6 years that I haven't been doing this. So some of these subjects I'll be chiming in too late. And that's always, too bad. Anyway, so a subject came up with there's a sheep farm. And the more they talked about it, the more, I said, I know where that place is. It used to be in my sort of, adjacent to the property I grew up on, just a few hundred yards away, actually. And it has a big red barn that you can see from Mountainside Road, right on the road. And apparently it's in pretty crappy shape, and so they're going to buy the land for open space. Now, I don't know how many acres it is, so that would be good to know. Whether it's worth some 500-something thousand that they intend to pay for it, and whether the barn is of actually any use at all, in the sense that it might not have any kind of real useful features. If you've seen old barns, sometimes, yes, they don't even have a useful floor. Let alone all that open space does you any good. So, what are you going to do? Just hide garbage inside of it? It's a lot of money, that's all. So, I don't know. There's certain things worth preserving, so other things are just worth allowing them to do what they do, like trees falling down, it's time, trees too old, time to go. Barns too old, maybe it's time to go. But anyway, whether it's a good or bad use of the money, I'm not convinced one way or the other. I don't know whether it really is connects to anything, in terms of creating any expansion of current parkland that's in any kind of useful expansion, in the sense that there might not be any useful way to get to the property without trespassing on some other person's property to do it, and or something like that. But if it has access to Patriot's Path or something, well, maybe it's worth it. Anyway, that's just my opinion. The end. Okay, the dam, the mud hole. Now, whether you think the mud hole is worth $1 million, that's that's a question. In the past, they would dredge the mud hole periodically every 10 years or so. And last time it happened, the cost was like, I don't know, $50,000, $100,000, all the way up to like 700 and something this time. And then all this, some sort of dam reclamation, which I don't really understand how it could possibly be necessary. And if you were going to redo the dam in any significant way, I think the smart thing to do is to put a little turbine in there, you know, at least run the lights off the dam or something. Do something new, modern, Tesla-esque, you know, think outside the box or something. Just preserving a mud hole doesn't seem like you're doing much for that kind of money. I mean, it's, you know, $700,000-800,000 for the mud hole. A lot of money. So anyway, could just, well, whatever. I always thought it would be better just to reconstruct it so you could collect the silt and dispose of it, you know, through our own means. Every year you would just use a little, you know, backhoe and pull out some silt out of a trap, you know, make a silt trap. But anyway, not going to happen. So, but a lot of money, and I have some pictures of it. I'll probably post those eventually. They did it really late in the year, which in my opinion was really dumb. I don't know whether they took the fish out like they had to last time, which was really insane. But the problem with doing it really late is I think they probably killed all the turtles, and you know, I'm a big fan of turtles. These, you know, just messed up the hibernation, the painted turtles and stuff. There's a couple of red-eared sliders in there, and I don't think you can mess with them that late in the year and they'll survive it, so probably killed them. Anyway, that's a whole another subject, is, you know, how much the nature, you know, the ecosystem in this town has changed from when I was a kid anyway, and how many species have been exterminated essentially in this town, and whether the town ought to have some little bit of a program to maybe breed some of these animals, you know, in places like the mud hole, for example. But anyway, you know, something to think about, I think. Be a subject of a future commentary, maybe. Alright, so salary ordinances. There was a lot of people hired, so the chief of police was, a person was promoted to chief at a salary, a stated salary of $130,000 a year. And we don't know what the benefit portion of that is, so that might be another $50,000 for all we know. Might get a free vehicle and, you know, lots of other perks, because that's how somehow the system works. And my commentary to all this is it's always been a very Republican council, and yet they seem very pro all of these teachers unions, cop unions, you know, even town administration unions. Why don't they have any will? It doesn't seem like they have any will or interest in trying to break it anywhere, to get out of that extortionist paradigm of unions. And I'm pro-union when they're necessary, but obviously unions have become, the only unions that are left are extortionist unions, unions that can basically say, we're going to screw with you if you don't do what we say. We'll hurt you. You know, that's not good. It's not productive. And I think, realistically, the rights of workers should be something all of us as human beings can put into the United States Constitution itself. We should guarantee all workers' rights, not just cops, not just civil employees, not just mailmen. Anyone who works should be protected from exploitation, and these should be basic rights that all human beings have who go to work. It shouldn't be for just these workers because they have a gun they can put to your head. They can, we'll hurt your children if you don't pay us. You know, that's really bad sport. So, but there seems to be no interest whatsoever of stepping out of that play by these idiotic rules of what I think are to be insanely high salaries for, you know, mediocre, you know, almost routine job performance. All right, yeah, so we got a new administrator at 100 and something, I don't know yet. New clerk at $75,000, but again, what's the benefits? Probably another $20,000, So you're paying $95,000 for, you know, glorified secretary. You know, nothing personal, but it doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm a liberal, you know, Democrat type, and it doesn't make sense to me. So I don't know how it makes sense to these you know, fascists and such. Anyway, so refund for something. Yeah, there was an issue over a pool. That's right. Yeah, somebody had a pool put in, and they didn't build the pool house apparently, but they had to pay for the permit for the pool house, and so they're getting reimbursed. But there's some confusion whether they're getting reimbursed for the entire permit or for just the pool house portion. Anyway, that kind of thing happens in the council meetings sometimes. It seems they are aware that they might be making mistakes, so they seem to have probably not made that mistake. Assume. There's something called the Joint Insurance Fund. So this is part of the perks and the benefits that the government employees get. You know, they don't have to live by our Social Security system. They don't have to have our healthcare system. They, you know, they seem to be able to have all their own stuff. And this just seems like another one of these, you know, rackets that the town is playing into, that we're somehow obligated to provide them with everything because they're government employees. And, you know, I'd resist having to do that. Anyway, so there's some discussion about Cherry Lane improvements, but I don't really know exactly what they're going to do. I think it's just paving the road and such, maybe. Transfer of resources, yeah, that revenues. That's they always do this every year, where they take money out of one fund and put in another fund and another. You know, it seems to me they should be able to do this budget thing without all that squirreling money around back and forth. But whatever. Okay, so they for the pool that was really expensive, they apparently over the short term borrowed the money from the open space fund, which would be the same fund that's going to buy the Red Barn thing. And it obviously can't buy the Red Barn thing if they took the money out of that fund to pay for the dam thing. So eventually they'll have to create some sort of debt mechanism, I suppose, to pay off some portion of the pool in the pond. Pool. It was a pool when I was a kid, but the pond improvements, which I don't even know if they were really necessary, but whatever. You know, I don't know. I have my doubts. Sometimes engineers don't. I don't think they always got their head on straight. Anyway, legacy system. So something about the IT issue. So apparently they're doing some internet improvements and, you know, whatever kind of computer improvements in around the Phoenix house and whatnot, new computers and new systems and all this. Who knows what it cost? And frankly, I think that's that's how the rich people get rich, right? Is they satisfy government contracts. You know, all these little private rinky-dinky companies just, you know, steal the money from the absolutely blind government who knows nothing. They have like no knowledge of anything or how anything works, especially the internet. And so they'll pay $500,000 for something that you could rent on GoDaddy for, you know, $5 a month. So that's how it's always been in the past. It still looks like that's what it is. Let's hire you know, private industry to provide some of the most basic services. Like, you know, it's almost like they're hiring people to type their emails. It's almost that retarded. But anyway, so the Phoenix house, apparently the previous administrator and staff there were kind of, you know, not very conscientious, and they let the place kind of go to hell. So there was a lot of stuff to open windows, you know, heat flies out, all that kind of is apparently a little bit untight. So apparently did some tightening up, so that's good. They're getting a generator for the Garabrandt Center, and apparently they're getting it because of the whole hysteria over, you know, paranoia, survivalist nonsense or some FEMA money, you know, disaster money. Like somehow everybody's going to go rush to the Phoenix Center to get warm or something, and I don't think, clearly that's probably not going to happen. But they get the money as if there's some poor community where all the apartments are going to go without heat and everybody's going to have to run somewhere just to keep out of the cold, and obviously none of that's going to happen. So this won't be put to that use. It'll just be a kind of a privileged circumstance for whatever organization gets to take advantage of the fact that they'll have electricity when no one else does, or something, some kind of use like that. But I don't think it has any real, I mean, the town's not apparently going to pay for it, so it's just, just because you can get it for free as a town doesn't mean you should take it for free, because it's still all tax money, and some of those taxes shouldn't be used where they're really not needed, and they're needed somewhere else a lot more. But regardless, people are just kind of greedy. Alright, something center registration. What was that? Sale of water assets. Oh, so yeah, I thought that was a bad idea. A few years ago they sold control of our own water company kind of thing and sold out to the private industry again. And so they got some money when they sold the water assets, and they haven't used it apparently, so I guess they're going to now. So it's not a lot. It's $75,000, I think, something like that. But anyway, all right. There was a resolution about fire inspections in the sense that they are going to increase the cost to do these inspections for renters and such. And they have this silly kind of proposal that if you apply to have the guy come, and he only has 10 days notice before the new occupants come in, well, then you pay $55. But if he has less than 10 days, then you pay $200 and something, like it somehow matters. Now, I've seen numerous of these inspections, and they're nothing. You press the button on the smoke detector, and you look at the gauge on the fire extinguisher, and that's it. I mean, you could have a high school kid do this stuff, and we're paying somebody whatever, $40, $50 an hour to press the button on a on a smoke detector and hear it go beep. I mean, come on. There's no way they should be doing that. This is the perfect opportunity to have some whatever you want to call it, the person, the town flunky, or they have a word, what do you use that, apprentice, the Demendum Town apprentice or something, and he just does the little fill-in jobs, the little grunty work things. And if yes, we need to go check to see if a house has a smoke detector and a proper fire extinguisher, he can go there with a little digital camera, take a picture of both the objects, see if they're in the right location. I mean, it's not even close to brain surgery. And no need, I'm not saying you don't charge people to do it. I think it is a nuisance charge on landlords. And but it's just silly to have some highly paid professional do this nonsense. Anyway, so there was more conversation about some sort of IT bid. So they're getting some company to come in and give them way too crappy a computer for way too much money. Way too stupid a system. Just basically rape them because they don't have any technical knowledge. That's what will take place. So then there was a whole conversation about this day camp thing, and I guess there's going to be a lot of that. And it seems to always come up every year. How you got to pay these people, and it's like they're just what these college kids or some other kind of thing, these unskilled non-professionals to take care of children. I mean, it just on its face sounds like just something you don't want to get into, but this is apparently some kind of thing that the town wants to run. This is the kind of thing where I think towns ought to work on trying to help organizations create their own 50c3, where the town ought to do everything it can to help them do the paperwork, create your own little private not-for-profit, and run it as a separate little thing. And the town shouldn't get its fingers into this mess. Taking care of other kids, people's kids, that's a hell of a liability to be stepping into. And so now they have to talk about background checks and all this other stuff because wackos do stuff in the world, and it just makes the insurance index go up, and it's I just don't think it's the kind of business the town should be in myself. And I also don't think, for other reasons. I mean, a lot of these subjects that the town is obsessed with or concerned with are all these things that have something to do with kids. And the fact that somehow the property taxpayers. That is, just to have your house and to sit in it, sit in your living room, you have to pay a tax, your living room tax. They shouldn't be using living room taxes. I mean, the taxes I pay just to sit in my living room, to pay for other people's kids. I mean, it's just kind of obnoxious. And now, especially in the world today. The world today, you know, half the people don't have kids. It's you know, the numbers are getting that high, and so most of the people having kids are, no offense, but you know, the retards, you know, the dumb poor people. And it just seems like why should people who have overtly chosen not to be strapped with the liability? I mean, it's not much different than you creating parks to entertain your cats and dogs and then telling the people who don't own pets that you have to pay for it. You have to pay for the dog entertainment and the dog protection, the dog health care and dog rehabilitation, and it's all some sort of public expense. When no, it really should be the expense of the people who decided to have children. They should tax each other. They shouldn't be taxing people who didn't. And I'm just saying that even if you're going to say, okay, there has to be some of this public education and things because people will abuse their children, they're so bad, the poor people, that they won't provide for their kids at all if we don't have social provisions for them. But we know that doesn't happen in these rich communities. We know these rich people can certainly afford private schools for their kids and all that kind of stuff. So it's not like they're not going to get educated. So, but there's just such a, you know, fundamental wrongness in the constitutional sense of people forcing other people to pay for essentially their entertainment. You know, you need to be entertained through your life by chasing your kids around and trying to stop them from falling in sewers. And other people who don't want that entertainment have no interest in it. And you're basically saying you have to pay for it. And it's the biggest expense in the world. You know, I mean, it's just this huge, monstrous expense. I mean, 80% of your property taxes are paying for kids, paying for the problems they create, the social problems, you know, educating them and protecting them and entertaining them. That's what all. It's just a ton of expense, and maybe there should be just even some concession that maybe that's not entirely fair, and that people who can prove they haven't had kids, maybe they should get a property tax deduction. You know, don't give it all back. Maybe give them 10% off, something, some concession that people who haven't created the problem you're paying for shouldn't have to pay for the problem. Anyway. So, next subject is they're going to have some food truck festival. You know, one of these silly town events of whatever. Let's park a bunch of food trucks and we'll sell kids junk food and have some sort of silly entertainments and, you know, call it an event. And it's totally un-nurturing in any real way. It's just some kind of take your kid to the pie eating contest. He won't be better off for it, I'm sure. And I'm sure going to some food truck festival is not going to do any kid any good. He'd be better off sitting in front of the TV watching old PBS programs. So anyway, so it's going to be $5 for the adults, and kids are free, of course, because kids will cause all the money to be spent. You know. But anyway, whatever. So that'll be 2 police officers at least, and I guess the town is going to foot that bill because it'll be monstrous. Of course, we get overtime and double time, and then we get some triple time, and you have to pay for our hot dogs. You know, we get free, you know, food truck food. But anyway, I don't like it. Not my thing. I'm just sorry. Yeah, I don't get all that crap. So then there was something else. I don't know what the hell that says. Charity? Yeah, they're going to give some of the money to charity. Sorry. Yeah. So this is basically like some shyster, you know, some whatever entrepreneur. That's the idea of doing these things, and they'll run it for you for the town. So it's like the monorail episode for The Simpsons. You know, some shyster shows up, have a food truck fun park. You know, and they'll make their money. You know, and the town will think it's done something community-ish. You know, the infrastructure gets paid, and what's the benefit out of it? Yeah, you just fed kids junk food. Bravo. You know, and all made money on the deal. Yeah, slimy. So anyway, it'd be a big joke though. $500 to charity for this, whatever it is, this, whatever, the pageant, some sort of. It's like the Mendham Day parades, and I mean, what the hell is that crap? Sorry, I never got parades. See, that's another thing. Just I personally don't get. And I went to some big ones, Macy's and Mardi Gras, and I went to all the big ones. Just this insane waste of time. Anyway, so then the Westfield came up, Field House donor. So some donor wants to finance a bathroom, I guess, at one of the baseball fields. So it's another subject, right? All this baseball, all this recreation. We need to have more baseball, more fields, soccer. I don't get it. Why is that a liability people should be taxed out of their living room for? That doesn't seem important enough to tax some Social Security recipient out of their house for. And that literally happens. I mean, it is a fact. Some of the people that lived in Mendham lived here who were working class people because, you could buy into Mendham for 30 grand. That's what a house cost in 1971. And, yeah, it changed. And but they might still be living here. They might they might have a $20,000 pension and their Social Security check, and that's all they got. And these taxes are insane. In a sense, half their real income. All right. Anyway, and for what? For baseball fields. The people have to move out of town so kids can have baseball fields. I don't think so. So something about the budget, everything's fine. I don't think it's probably never ever everything's fine, but that's what they said. Something, what is this? Drainage. Some sort of, I did, speaking of drainage, that's a good thing. Sometimes I can't read it and then I'll say, oh yeah, that reminds me of the other subject. Yeah, apparently this water infiltration thing is always a problem. So apparently there's one of the pipes somewhere in town has gone bad, and a bunch of water is getting in. But it is curious that they say it's unabating. Well, how could you know whether it's going to abate or not? Because the weather has been so wet. How could you tell? I mean, you need a dry period to be able to tell us if it would abate. But anyway. So then there's this stuff about Dunkin' Donuts trying to get into town. And I guess they're going to stop that one way or another. And then some other guy wants to make some sort of eating donut bagel cafe or something. But apparently the people that already have some shop where they eat some other thing, crepes or something, they have an exclusive contract that says you can't have no bagel people here. So I guess that'll be an internal contract problem. It won't have anything to do with the town, I don't think. It'll just have to do with the fact that the management company for the plaza at King's gets to dictate those kind of contracts. So anyway, and then Dante's wants to serve breakfast and whatever. Ew. Breakfast should be outlawed. Nobody should eat breakfast. Not good for you. Breakfast just makes you fat. Just take it out of your... You want to lose weight easy? Quit eating breakfast. Public safety. I don't know. Flashing signs. There's a lot of conversation about some sort of flashing signs. They want to put a couple locations that do the cross. You get to cross the street because the sign says somebody wants to cross the street. Something like that. So lots of conversation about it. I don't know. Good idea, bad idea. I don't know. At least one of the council members did bring up the fact that if these are close to residential areas, those signs could get incredibly obnoxious because it's blinking outside your window all the time. And anyway, then they have some sort of LEAP officers, or I don't know, these drug things. They have little names for their little drug prevention programs, and I don't, I'm not a big fan of this whole cops should do cop stuff, and that's what they should do. Everybody should do their work. And if you want to do something else, you don't do it as a cop, you do it as a something elser on your own time. So if you want to have some not-for-profit organization that does drug counseling or something, that's okay. But I don't see how it should be connected to cops. Their job is to enforce laws. It's not to decide policy. But anyway, and it's just so, I mean, we already know that there's such a hypocrisy about drugs. You know, the drunken parents, you know, paying the cops to tell their kids not to smoke pot. I mean, it's just retarded. You know, I remember seeing the chief of police fall down, crawl into his car. Yeah, in this town, the chief of police. You know, but anyway, personnel something. So that was about something about salary caps, but they never have caps. They just keep going up. This whole, you know, this is the whole thing why I'm against unions, right? It's because they're not fighting for fairness. They're fighting for this some sort of idiotic notion that, like, say you get a job as a waiter, you go to a restaurant, you get a job as a waiter, and every year you're entitled to get a salary increase, you know, to keep up with inflation and whatnot, and to make you richer for being a nicer person to stay at work. And after 30 years of work, somehow you should be paid $135,000 to be a waiter. Now, nobody gets that in the real world, right? No real world job are you able to just do the same job for 30 years and have your salary increase so you get a $130,000 pension. I mean, it's ludicrous, and they do this with school teachers. We got school teachers paying $170,000 a year to somebody teaching grammar school, 6th grade teacher, $150,000. That's stupid. It's irrational. So, I mean, if you want a job where you get paid more, then you see who gets paid more than you, where you're working, and you say, oh, I got to figure out how to do their job, and then when the opportunity opens, I'll get their job, and I'll do a different job. I won't do the same job. I'll do a new job and get more money. But this idea that just doing your job means, like, we should pay mailman, right? If a guy's a mailman for 30 years, we should pay him $139,000? It's idiotic. So it really is. Anyway. But nobody fixes any of this stuff. So there was some other stuff about this and that. Mendham, good place to do business. Oh, so yes, one of the council members is kind of interested in all this entrepreneur-y crappy, and you know, somehow we have to attract businesses into Mendham. Why? It's a place people live. I mean, you really don't expect to go to, like, a fine suit shop, you know, a mile and a half from your house, or you know, you really don't expect to have every kind of thing. And Mendham already had the luxury of having the mall, the little mini mall. It attracts some business, and yes, some businesses aren't going to be able to make money in this little town, so obviously. And so it's only going to be a certain kind of specialty business that's going to be able to make money, but who cares one way or the other? I mean, why should it be of interest to people who live here? You know, in the sense, beyond the sense that, okay, well, you have King's. Be nice if we could have another store, because yeah, that's just insanely expensive. But yeah, you have sort of a minimum amount of businesses. You got some auto repair, and you got the veterinary, and you got this, and you got that. So what's the problem? Why do you need to encourage businesses? How does it make life for the average resident any better? Especially businesses that might attract people from the outside world. That's not going to do the average Mendham resident any good. I mean, we really don't want to be a town where people say, let's go to Mendham to buy something. Because you really don't want people driving into your town for that purpose. So, you know, who cares about businesses? Why should that be important to residents of Mendham? No. No, not important. Anyway, snow events. Well, this meeting is before the snow events showed up. So whatever kind of delusion they had that, oh, we did the winter so well, everybody did a great job, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, well, you're probably way over budget now. Public comment section. Somebody said something about school cut-through properties. Yeah, so it's always been an issue. This, you know, you can't, they wouldn't let, you know, even in my day, there was restricted access to parking for seniors. And you know, so you always had to do some kind of gimmick to, you know, get to school and drive, and they've never really fixed those problems. I don't know why, because they have a ton of land there. Why don't they just make a bigger parking lot? So I don't get it. But whatever. Yeah, you know, I guess the traffic itself is the problem. So I guess I'd have staggered openings or something. You know, I don't know what you could do. I mean, traffic's just a nightmare, so yeah, I don't know how you fix that. But I mean, expecting people in Mendham to get on buses doesn't seem very practical. But whatever. Um, I have no turtle in that race, so who cares? Sort of. I mean, it's a forever problem. I guess there's no real solution to the problem, and that's just the way it is. So there's a little bit about the day camp here. It's so they're currently paying them, I think, $7.25 an hour. And, it is kind of funny that people take their precious children, and hand them over to somebody they only pay $7.50 an hour, and yet they'll pay the chief of police $130,000. They'll pay the administrator $150,000. I don't know, and they'll pay the clerk $75,000. But they'll pay the person taking care of their kids, $7.25 an hour. Okay, I'm just saying. It's not what I'd do with my kids if I had any. And no doubt, as you also understand, it's just a damn good thing I didn't have any. Good for me, good for you. That's how I would look at it. But anyway, so that's the meeting, as much as I remember it. So, well, in the future, I also listened to this. The winter came and did all that crap. I didn't have power for 6 days. So I listened to these before I did this. So it was a while back, so I don't remember everything very well. So I'll get more organized, probably, or not, one way or the other. And I'll try to organize some subjects about some of this stuff that is reoccurring kind of stuff, the budget and some of the standard conversations that take place, and so there's some room for some commentary by the public here also. See how that works. Anyway, till next time. From inmendham.com and such. Something like that.